versioning issue will be with everyone. So now this conflict need to be resolved a version database. So the next level, the centralized version control system, trying to merge these changes. Hello my dear friends, welcome back to QV Bro. So as I promised, I am back on another Friday with another video. So from this week we are going to start a new playlist since we finished our foundation level part and then we discussed about the professional qualifications, and now today it's time to start another playlist. So I thought of starting something technical from this week, the next playlist, because like otherwise it will be a bit boring to follow all these theoretical things and the process related stuff. So like we can go on kind of a round robin. So I selected the version control systems because like after doing this manual testing and all these things, we need to start with the automation. So it doesn't matter like what language or what framework you use for the automation, you definitely have to go with some version control systems in order to manage your source code. So in that case, I thought this is the best topic to start now as our next playlist, the version control systems. So today, the first video, I will introduce you to the version control systems. Then, like what will be the issues if you didn't use the version control systems, and then what are the advantages of using these version control systems, like those background information. And from next week, we can deep dive into this technical information on how to use these version control systems and so forth. So yeah, so these version control systems are not only for the software industry people. This will be useful for anyone who will work with maintaining different versions, any documentation and any images or anything. Even for the graphic designers, you have to maintain different versions of your images. So in that case, I'm pretty sure that all of you have encountered these issues. Like you might have created different versions, let's say final, but there are a few more changes. Then you will create a new version like final or the last final. I am pretty sure that everyone have faced these struggles, even for maintaining the document versions or different the graphic versions likewise. So now with the help of version control systems, you can make your lives easier. So yeah, let's deep dive more into the to get some idea about what these version control systems are. So yeah, so that was like one of the main problems with this without having the version control system, versioning. As I mentioned, like you might have a struggle with maintaining different versions, and also you might miss like what was the last updated version likewise. So that versioning issue will be with everyone, anyone who keep the documentation or developers as well. Now let's check what are the other challenges we face as we maintain our source code. So another issue is like the rollback. I am talking about like if we didn't use the version control system, so just forget like all the version control systems you use currently, and think like if you have to maintain your source code without use of any version control system, so like what you will do. And there are multiple people in your team as well, so you will develop or you will code in your local computer, your laptop. Then you might have to share your code with the other colleagues, maybe via a flash drive or via a online drive system or something like that. So again, in that case, there will be struggling because multiple people updating the code. Then you might have to share this code like every time. Otherwise, you will miss the updates done by the other person. So yeah, there are so many issues like this at the collaboration as, and also with the rollback. Why? Because now you have updated on your code, then maybe some other person did some changes there, and okay, let's say you have deployed the last version to the production and you got a bug, but at your local you have done another feature related to the latest feature. Now you don't have the previous code because now you have updated your files. If you keep a local copy for the last version released, then you have there, but in that case like you have to maintain two versions, isn't it? So let's say for example 2.0 is the version on production, so you keep that code on a separate folder, and you create another copy, and on the copy you will update on the new feature related things. And if there is a bug on the production now, the production version is 2.0, so you need to do the bug fix on top of 2.0. So then you will go to that 2.0 the code, and then there you will do the particular update, and then you will apply it on the production, and then again you need to take those to your current working folder as well, because you have already proceed with the new feature related changes as well. So that is why it is bit hard to maintain these versions and the new features and the rollbacks and all those things like that. And also, as I mentioned, the collaboration. So like with this now, after these COVID situations, most of the companies have been transferred to like work from home or the hybrid working models as well, and different people from different countries, the remote working, all these things they are now. So the collaboration is now, it's bit more hard than the previous days to maintain this collaboration between the team. So if we didn't have this version controlling, now again we are facing so much of struggling sharing these codes daily, all these updates, and again the conflicts. Let's say two people working on two feature related updates, and both the people update the same file. Now there are conflicts. So then how you going to add these conflicts, or how you going to resolve these conflicts without these version controlling systems? You have to do manually, like to the both people may have to sit together and then share those two files, and then have to check on the changes and apply those changes manually. So there is a high chance you will miss some of the changes, because like if we, because okay, I will not talk about the version control systems here. I will, when we talk about the advantages there, I can explain with that example. So here, like if you didn't have the version control system, like then every person need to keep track of like what are the files he changed. For example, if there are 100 files in the repo, you need to keep track of like all the files you changed. Okay, so let's say developer A updates 10 files, and the developer B updates another 10, another 5 files, and there are two files, the same file, both people updated. So then developer A keep track of all these 10 files he updated, then developer B keep update on his 5 files, and then both of them can share their changes. So there are two files, both the developers updated. So now these conflicts need to be resolved. So manually they need to sit and resolve these conflicts. So it will be very hard. It will take more time as well. So there is high risk you will miss some updates as well. And again, keeping backups is very hard. So what will happen, like if you lost your laptop, or because all your code is in your laptop, there is no remote place you keep track of all these things. And what about your last, okay, let's say you can get the last changes, the shared repo from your friend, but what about the changes you did on the particular day within that period? So let's say every day you share the code with the, at the morning you guys share all your codes, but within the day, at the end of the day, you lost your laptop, or it's broken, or now it's corrupted. So what about the changes you guys did on that particular day? So now those are missing. So there are no backups as well. So keeping no backups, so that is another struggle what you will face without the version control systems. And again with the history, so like when people do multiple changes, and it's a bit hard to know like what are the changes. Okay, so within last couple of days or within last couple of weeks, you can you might remember like what are the things you did. But what about the last year? The changes you did in last year, like if somebody asks, oh, if there is a bug, and for the bug fix, okay, it was due to this particular change, and then if you need to track why it was done or something, then it will be very hard, because, and also if the developer leaves the company, and so okay, the other person don't know like why he did these changes, like there is no track of history, so it will be really hard to manage those situations. And also the release management, due to all these challenges which we discussed, the release management will also be very hard, because as I mentioned previously, you might have to keep a separate copy of each release of the code, because once it is in production and if there is a bug, so you need to deliver the hotfix on top of that particular version. So in that case, you might have to keep a separate copy of your repo at that particular version, like kind of a snapshot of the repo. So all these things you might have to do manually without these version controlling systems. So all the versionings, keep track of this history, and also keep the snapshot versions at each phase, and this conflict resolving, enabling the collaboration between the developers, the backups, all these things you might have to do manually to overcome of these challenges. So it will be very hard your life as a developer or a quality engineer or anyone who work with this code, because it's not just one or two files or one or two lines. It will be multiple repos, 1,000 lines of codes, more than that. Your life will be really hard with these all these challenges. So these are not the all the challenges, like these are like the major issues which will you face without the support of the version control systems. So now with keep in mind about those challenges, now let's go and see about the version control systems and how these version control systems can help us. So the version control system, the revision control system, the source control system, all these three terms stand for the same thing. The VCS, we can short it, the version control systems, and some people will call it a revision control system because it will help to keep track of that, the revisions or the snapshots of different versions, and the source control because we use this for mainly most of the time for source code management. So in that case you can call it as a source control system as well. So this is not only for source code management, as I mentioned, you can use this to keep track of any version of any documentation or anything. Most of the time, yeah, so most of the people who work with multiple documents also use these version control systems to share their documents and to keep track of this versioning and the history, those things as well. So when talking about the evolution of the version control systems, like the early days before introducing of this version control systems, actually we had this versioning at the local level, at the local computer. So if you check at this particular diagram, you can see the outer the area is the local computer. So everything was kept inside our local computer. So people or the developers used to have a version database. So first, they tried with the manual versioning and keeping the backups, as we discussed in the first slide, and then they find it was very struggling. So they thought of finding a solution, and they came up with this solution to have a local database of keeping track of different versions, kind of a snapshot at a database level. So it was like okay for that time it was a better solution when compared to the manual versioning and snapshotting they had, because now they have kind of a database. But yeah, it was at local level with after like when you need to go to a different version, okay, now they have a track at the database, so where you can keep a version in database at your local. So you have different versions with the history, like why the reason with the particular version, and if you want to get a different version, then you can check out that old version from your version database, and likewise you can get those old files and then you can work on that. Likewise you can proceed, but again this was not enough. Why? Because we kept this version database at your local computer. If something happened to your local computer, then it's all gone because you don't have any backups. So the collaboration between different developers is again struggling because each developer has to keep a local version of their copies at their local computers. So there could be again mismatch between these different databases, because developer A might have a different version. Okay, let's say the latest version was version 5 on their version database, but at developer B version 4 they didn't have that, but the latest last version on their local copy on the local computer, the version database. So likewise there could be again some issues with the collaboration between different developers. So after facing these issues with these local version controlling systems, they went for the next phase. Now here we come with the next evolution. So the next level, the centralized version control system. Instead of keeping the version database locally, so we have a dedicated server, a kind of a client server architecture here. So maybe at the company we have a separate dedicated server to keep this version database. So there we keep all these version in the databases, and the developers will connect to this particular version control server in order to get this version. So now all the developers can push the latest updates to the version database. So every time it is up to date. When next time the developer B connect to the server, and then he will get the changes pushed by the developer A as well. So likewise, now the collaboration was enabled. Now it is better than the last version, because even if you lose the developer A lose their computer, it's not much issue. If he has pushed these changes, okay, those things are in the central server. So from another computer also he can connect to the server and get those updates again. So now the developer B also can connect to the central server and get the last updates pushed by the developer A. Likewise, now the collaboration was enabled. But again, since this particular version database was in the central server, now again we will face some issues with the single point of failure, because we have only one point here, the one server. If this is down, or if there are issues with the particular server, now again we are struggling, the developers will struggle. Maybe due to, could be hardware failures or network issues, anything. So in that case, again, the developers might struggle with their day-to-day work if this central server goes down. The single point of failure could be there in this centralized version control system. So now, after some period of using the centralized VCS, due to the single point of failure and other issues, they thought of evolving this version controlling systems to the next level. So the third level, or the latest evolution of the version controlling systems, is the distributed version controlling systems. Here you can see the server is there. At the server we have the version database similar to the previous type. But instead of just developers will connect to the server, no, here they will keep a local copy of the server as well. So if you closely look, so here if you check, this is the server with the version database, and then the computer A, the developer A, he has the version database a copy. So likewise, all the developers will keep a copy of the server at their local. So we have the remote repository and the local repository. Likewise, at that time, even if the server is down, never mind, we have the local copies. So you can continue your offline work. So this is the latest evolution, or the edition of the version control systems, the distributed version. So JIT is an example of this distributed version controlling systems. All the developers will keep a local copy. So yeah, at the first time when a new developer joins and when he wants to start with this project, okay, there will be some slowness, because if the version database is big, so then he need to have a local copy. So creating that local copy will take some time, but after that, it's very easy to work. You can do offline work as well, and then you can get the new updates from the server, and also you can push your changes to the server. Likewise, this will enable the collaboration between developers and also offline work as well. So this is the latest edition of the version controlling system. Okay, now since you know about the history and about the latest version of the version controlling system, the distributed version, so with keeping those things in your mind, now again, let's recall about our first slide, the challenges we face without the version controlling system. So now let's see how we can overcome those struggles, or how those challenges are resolved with these version controlling systems. So I mentioned that now all the versioning will be there on the version database at the server and also at the local. So all the changes you do, you can push it to the server, and the other developers also can fetch those the latest changes, and they can do their changes, and they can push those changes to the server. Likewise, all the versions will be maintained by the version controlling system. Any change, even a small change, or addition of a full stop, or a removing, addition, updating, deleting, anything, all these changes will be maintained by the version control system with the new version. Okay, for example, we had one version, so the developer A got that particular version, add a new file and push those changes. So the version control system will check the last snapshot and the latest one. Okay, there is a addition of a file. They will keep track of that file with as a new snapshot with a new version. So now we have two snapshots at the version control system database with two versions. They will use based on the version control system. They will use different mechanisms like the SHA. They will generate a SHA to keep track of these versions. So there will be no duplicates of SHA code. So then the IDs. So likewise, they can maintain different versions with the different snapshots. So each change of the code, source code. And also same, you can easily maintain the history. The version control system will help you to, if you go to the particular the SHA ID for the change, there it will show you easily. You can see like what were the changes from the previous version with this version, because the version control system will store the two snapshots. The first snapshot, so the same example of the addition of the file. So in the last snapshot, there are only 10 files. At this snapshot, there will be 11 files, so that the change or the history. So you can easily see the difference between the two snapshots. The addition of file, it will display that. And also it will keep track of the history. It doesn't matter like how many years. It will keep all the history throughout the source code, all the versionings, the history, who did the change at what time, and what was the reason. Keep everything will be tracked correctly, so it will be easy for the developers. So you can go and check the tree of the history and easily see like what was the reason and who did the change and at what time and what was the snapshot and what were the changes. So all these things will be kept tracked by the version control system, so no need for you to do those things manually now. And also with the version control system, since we discussed on the distributed version, so there I show there will be a server. Anyone can connect to the server and they will keep the local copy, and also changes will be pushed to the server. So worldwide collaboration will be enabled with that. It doesn't matter which country you are. If you have the access to the particular network, then you can access the repo or the server. You can access the server and you can get the copy, and then you can do the changes, and then you can push your changes. Likewise, worldwide collaboration was enabled. The remote working, the work from home, all these things were enabled. All these things were very easy thanks to the versioning control systems as well. So again, if it doesn't matter if you lost your computer, or if your computer got corrupted, if you have done those changes and if you have pushed those to the server, then nothing to worry. You can connect to the server from a new computer, new device, and you can get the latest changes. So data loss is prevented. You have the backups there, and also you can get the backups at different levels as well. So all these things are enabled now through the versioning control systems, and also the transparency and the accountability. So as I mentioned about the history also, so when it keep track of this new version, it will keep track of like the person who did the changes, the timestamp, and everything. So due to this, the transparency and the accountability is also high. So nobody can say he did these changes, and also we can verify whether it was who did the changes and why. All those things are available, all these data. So the transparency and accountability is also high now thanks to the version controlling systems. And also conflict resolution is also easy, because these version control systems will allow you to resolve those conflicts easily. The conflicts mean, so if two developers update the same file, let's say file A was updated by developer A and developer B. So developer A added a couple of new lines and developer B removed few lines and added few lines again. So if you try to push these changes, developer A push these changes, and when developer B take the new changes, okay, he will see there are changes for the file A from the developer A as well. So he will see, okay, there are changes on file A, so there are new added lines. So he can easily get those lines added to the file. So the version control system will enable him to easily resolve these conflicts without doing any hard work. So thanks to the version control systems, this conflict resolution was also enabled, and also this version control system allows this branching and merging. I will talk more about the branching and merging in the next slide. So this is like one of the most useful or most used features of these version control systems, this use of branching and the merging and likewise. So okay, what is this branching? So branching mean, okay, let's say we have the changes. So we have the source code, all the latest updates. So the developer get all these updates to their local copy. Now, when they want to do some changes, okay, let's say on top of the latest updates, he do the changes. So he will try to push those things to the server. So at the same time, another person is also trying to push their changes as well. So now there will be some issue, like at the same time there will be some conflicts if both parties try to push these things. So to overcome of these issues, now we have, and also let's say the developer wants to, okay, so the developer is working on some changes related to the new feature, and at the same time there is a issue on the production. Now he need to stop the feature work and he need to update the, so he need to get the version at the production and need to work on the hotfix, because he need to apply the hotfix on the production version, on top of the production version. For example, the production version is 2.0, so you need, the developer need to apply the hotfix on top of the 2.0 version. But after the 2.0 version, there were multiple other versions as well. Now the last last build version was 2.3, but still the 2.3 was not released to the production or not applied on the production, but it was built at the developer levels. And on top of 2.3 version, developer is working on the latest feature, the 2.4 version, which is going to be built in near future. But the production is having 2.0. Okay, now the developer is working on top of 2.3, but now he need to go back to the 2.0 version and work on the hotfix. So now again he will be struggling, because or else he might have to keep multiple copies, the 2.0 version, 2.3 version. No. This version control system will help them with this branching strategy there. So at the 2.3 version, he created a new branch and he was working on the particular branch. So there are some the terms like the main branch. It is the mainstream where all these latest changes, or the version, the 2.3 is on the main branch. So from the 2.3 he created a new branch and he named it as the feature branch. So he will work on the feature branch. He is not working on the main branch. So on top of 2.3, he created a branch and he is working on that. At any time, he can switch back to the main branch. From the main branch, he can create another feature branch. Likewise. So all his changes will be kept there on the feature branch he worked. So nothing he pushed or committed to the main branch. So again, he can come back to the main branch to the 2.3 version, or any version less than that. Likewise, 2.0 version he can go. From 2.0 version, he can now create another branch and work on that likewise. And also two developers can work at the same time. So on the main branch, one developer will create one feature branch, another developer will create another feature branch. So both developers are working separately on two of their branches, and one, after they complete their feature work or their branches, now they can merge their changes to the main branch. And later, okay, let's say this example, you can see the main branch is there, and one developer created one feature branch called the feature 1, and the next developer created another branch called the feature 2, the new another branch. Both branches were from the same version. The red dots here shows the different versions. So this is the last version on the main branch. So from here, one developer created one branch, and the next developer also created another branch. So two branches, feature 1 and feature 2. So on the feature 1 branch, there are two changes. Then now this is where he is going to merge these changes to the main branch. So this is like a new version was created. For example, if the last version was 2.3, now this is the 2.4 on the main. So now when developer 2 trying to merge these changes, he will see there are new changes on the main branch. He will apply those changes to his branch and then he will merge. his changes. So in his branch, he had likewise 3 changes, let's say, and all these changes were merged to the main branch, and now it creates the latest version 2.5. So likewise, it's now easy to keep track of these changes and going back and forward between different branches and going back and forward between different versions, creating new branches from different versions and multiple branches. Likewise, all these things are enabled thanks to this version control system. Otherwise, you might have to keep different versions every time. If you need to do some update, okay, you need to have a local copy or at that particular snapshot. Now it is not needed, so you can go back and forth between these versions and these features thanks to this branching mechanism. So that's what branching and merging is. I hope it's clear. And now, since like you have the idea about the challenges what you will face without the version control systems and how these things were resolved using the version control systems, and now you have the idea about the history and the evolution of version controlling systems and the branching mechanism as well. So if you do a simple Google search, you can see there are multiple different version control systems, the revision control systems, source control management systems there. So you can use one of these version control systems. So if you check the latest stats related to the usage of version control system, you will see 80 to 90% of people use this JIT as their version control system or source code management system. So that is like the most used or the most popular one. Other than that, Mercurial, the VCS, like those two also in use, but and also the subversion by Apache, but JIT is the most used one based on the stats. So yeah, I hope everything is clear up to now. And from next week, I will start talking about the JIT, and we can see how you can use JIT at your organization and for easier work as a version control system to keep track of the versioning, and also how you can create these branches and how you can push your changes and get the latest updates to your local repository likewise. And yeah, JIT based on this the distributed version controlling system mechanism. So it's the latest evolution of version control systems. There will be a remote server, and also it will keep all these local copies as well. Likewise, so JIT is based on that mechanism or the that particular architecture. Okay, yeah, I hope everything is clear up to now. The things which we discussed today. Now you have the idea like why you need to use a version control system. So next week I will do another video. The start from the JIT. It will be a technical thing. You will get to know about the JIT commands and how to use JIT to keep track of your source code to manage it. So I hope everything is clear. And if you have any questions, you know how to contact me. You can use the comment section, or you can drop me an email at qvbro.pro@gmail.com. I am really happy to answer all your queries. Okay, so go through the things which we discussed today and get ready to learn JIT from next week. Happy testing till then. See you.